that emptiness is not empty. All aspects of physical reality, from one-celled creations to a huge variety of complexities, have originally been caused to be and made possible by the same energy which started the creation of the base materials utilized for evolutionary processes. Every human thought is vitally important for each human being, contains the source, and therefore the ability to will and command the elements like magnetic attractors and start a chain reaction. When, however, humans stop their current trends of destructive kind, the way they have been conditioned to believe, and start a positive way of thinking, they will be able to discover the truth and learn that the lives they have lived until now have been the result of their own negatively conditioned thought patterns. They are not the byproduct of their belief systems, which they have been forced to accept throughout their long history. Under the dictates of self-made religious or cult leaders, they have been controlled, and all their thoughts altered to believe in myths for eons. Man has always had the ability to improve his ways and discover new ones to advance in science and medicine. Sadly, however, by negative thought, they have blinded themselves, therefore repeating their history. Humanity's evolvement is therefore very slow. Thought energy, together with the energy of love, which binds, is positive and capable of building, not destroying, and can create much of what mankind needs. Some groups of mankind are beginning to grasp the truths considered herein, and will discover that they are the engineers of the life they live, not the way their religious leaders have been indoctrinating them. It was further explained, what is being told to you may not be considered right by your religions or cults, but those who have been adhering to dogma and religious practices have dulled their minds and have been unable to think for themselves. Here is a thought, matter and antimatter, thought and antithought. Now put them in action in equal or proportionate parts, and consider that you may be the creators of your lives. Just think about this for a moment, and remember there is not only one source of intelligence in the known universe, because all intelligences, including the ones on Earth, are united in oneness. Call this a multifaceted or multidimensional unity of intelligence. Those who speak of love do not always practice love. You have certainly heard of the energy of supreme love and the effects of self-love without being selfish. This love leads to rebuilding your entire being, and even your entire bodies, as well as updating your DNA programming for the better. More will be discovered concerning this, but progress will not be fast enough. Generations to come will find a more scientifically viable word for it. Attractor energy, binding energy, and others. No matter how long or short your stay may be on Earth due to your current circumstances in the world, you may think that the real you will never change. But you are being urged to consider that once you willingly commit yourselves to get to know who truly is the real you, only then can you begin to make the necessary changes in your lives. When every individual allows the alterations in their thought patterns, then the whole world will change for the better. This is a message to humanity. It is completely up to you to live happier lives or to become completely miserable. to prolong your lives in good health, or prolong your endless sufferings. When speaking of the cosmos, or ourselves, we can declare that all is but a unity, and we need to feel it deep within our core. We need to look at all things surrounding us differently, from singular atoms to more complex molecules, to the food we consume, even the world upon which we live. Perhaps it is an excellent idea to look within first, instead of seeking help from an exterior and elusive source of any kind. Remember, everything in nature has a core, which is the aware self, just like you. When you are able to consciously connect with it, not surrounding it with pessimism and negativity, but with absolute positive energy, increasing your unconditional love therein, nothing in the universe can stop you inventing, creating, and healing. This is where your universal throne is set, and your kingdom is. This is where your real essence dwells, beyond you, yet within you. Can you feel your own core, your own center of being? This may be what you have been endlessly searching for, but were unable to name it until now. You might have been looking for it in all the wrong places. Remember, when there is light, you can see your shadow, and it is always attached to you. It imitates everything you do. Whenever your center of operations decides to do anything, your body obeys the commands. There is an observable pattern within all life circumstances surrounding us. Love is the light you need to see your own inner core, your aware self, your center, and that is indeed your seat in the universe. You are like the sun in the center, and are not just your body. You are like the stars you admire at night amongst multitudes of other stars, galaxies, and universes. Do not constantly expect disasters in your world, as many have been doing for centuries, and start believing that all good things will happen. Remember, you are the controller and creator of your thoughts. Fill your world with positive thoughts, and your world will be rich with enlightenment. It will never be like the belief systems or fanatical movements and religious institutions trying to convince you to accept them. Do not fall into the ignorant ways, but become like your masters of great thought. Listen to your scientists, for if they were not in touch with their own cores and the central control system in the universe, there would be no progression, no discoveries, no inventions, and you would still be groping in dark. You need to find your real self in the real world. Do not consider the belief systems of old as being completely wrong either, for there is always something worthwhile to find in them. But let them not stop your evolvement. Do not just dream, do it. Walk courageously and trust your inner self, where your core is, and know that you are part of a greater scheme of things. You are the children of the universe, although you are the tiniest part of many other worlds, stars, and galaxies which you are beginning to become aware of. You are forever. Do not divide humanity, for every one of you is the same. Do not judge each other, whether black or white, rich or poor, intelligent or ignorant, because you all emanate from the same source. When you eat your food, you do so with delight. Now try to eat it with your hands and taste the difference between eating with cutlery and with your fingers, and tell me the truth. Which method is tastier? Why? It is because you are transferring the energy of love directly to the food you are enjoying. There are many examples of this, and you can discover it within your daily lives and interaction with others of your kind. This is the closeness you need to feel when helping yourselves to heal and even become wealthier. This energy of love is the way you can create peace amongst yourselves. You need to stop warring your hatreds and resentfulness and concentrate more on your loving deeds. You need to stop your differences, even if it means giving up your beliefs, or at least accept all others without forcing your own religious ideals on them, and the light will shine. Buddha says, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. One can never know what comes after, and only guess what tomorrow will bring. No one upon this wonderful world is completely knowledgeable about what it was like before, and all seem to have only dreams, theories, and imagination. Let us not forget that these are some of our characteristics, and they have a source and a beginning. If one would attempt to talk about what happens in reality, one would have a series of questions, and rightly so, just to know more about what reality is. What really happens when we pass from one reality and dimension into another reality and dimension unceasingly, even at times thinking that all our experiences are like the delusional experiences of a drunkard. You might consider your experiences as being groundless imaginings, believing you might one day wake up into everything new. What if you are still dreaming of a reality dream, and so writing down your story for others to read? But who will take note of them while they are all symbolically engaged in writing their own dreams down? Can those recorded memories you create open new vistas on the pathway towards all-important discovery? Can it be true that you simply live to die, and all is lost? What does your logical mind tell you? What does your conscious awareness show? Listen to your children when they tell you all about their adventures before being born, and do not consider them as worthless and childish imaginings, for you may be missing a few vital clues about certain truths. Furthermore, do you really need anything or anybody visible or invisible and of a higher echelon to dictate and guide you, to control your entire being like an automaton? Remember, you are continually inspired from a positive source, but your own negative thoughts and wishes can attract the negative source also. Therefore, if you want all evil in the world to disappear, aim to consider everything positive and wholesome. Take note that what is herein considered is vitally important when contemplating upon the future of men. Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, 1770 to 1831, says, ultimate truth is slowly uncovered through the unfolding evolution of the history of ideas. We are being recorded within the fabric of the universe, where is and is not, being and not being, up and down, are all contained. Remember Shakespeare's famous words? To be or not to be, that is the question. We are the matter and the antimatter. We are thrust into an explosion, an implosion of activity and actuality in one. After our departure from the material illusion we call physical life, the world of the mind begins, and it is where dreams become realities. Compare it with your reality dreams within your physicality spectrum. Know that life is a cycle, a dance unending, with all its new beginnings. So many things have been shown and spoken about during this unusual outing, and so many wonderful ideas considered. Some of them were a little outlandish, but beautiful, and many others promising that the future was going to be very interesting. However, as time passed, I still wanted to wake up from what I considered to be my dream, or else my mind playing tricks on me due to the influence of alcohol. This experience was so significant and unforgettable. Suddenly, I was once again told that my desire to wake up was not going to be fulfilled for a while yet. I was a little anxious, but no longer frightened. One thing was certain, that we are only a small part of the greater picture, no matter how insignificant our role may be. Then I concentrated on having died, and that this was the so-called afterlife. But again I was told it was not the case. Besides, there was still so much to learn and more to see. For a brief moment, I thought I was in a utopian world. I was meeting other people and also being introduced to a greater number of different races, including those original dwellers on planet Earth long before the introduction of the known humanity. I was no longer worried about waking up, work, education, or anything else for a while. It was like an unplanned holiday. There were so many things to concentrate on that there was no time for anything else. In fact, during our journey through life, every one of us encounters many things, denials and change, but we need to realize that each has its own message to learn from. One of the great philosophers humankind had in the distant past was Socrates, circa 470 to 399 BC, who said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing." When I finally, reluctantly woke up from my long-lasting dream, I found myself in an icy, cold place with very little light. Unsure where I was, I found myself lying on a bed with wheels. Some white material was loosely covering me, which I took to be bedding. I felt the urge to lift myself and sit up. Instantly I noticed that I was surrounded with many storage compartments. In the minimal amount of light available, one could only interpret what I was looking at was a cold room. Or maybe what I thought I was seeing was not there. I can never forget that thin metal piece attached to one of my toes. I felt so cold and frozen, waiting for a lengthy period of time. At first I wondered if this was the continuation of my dream. Then a young lady in a nurse's uniform entered, carrying a tray full of things. I was so excited to see a living soul, and shouted, "Hello, miss! It is very dark and cold here. Could I have some water, please?" That experience was so thoroughly etched in my mind. I can never forget how that poor girl yelled in absolute fear as she ran towards the door. dropping her tray. She was shouting, "He came alive! He came alive!" Suddenly, awful smells filled the room, which I thought came from what had been spilt on the floor. Soon after, people who I took to be hospital staff and doctors rushed into the room, attaching wires and tubes all around my body, and hastily took me to another one, asking me so many questions, such as if I knew where I was, what the date was, and how I felt. My temperature, blood pressure, heart rate, and breathing was normalized. One doctor approached me while I was sipping on a cold glass of water, telling me I had been in a coma following severe alcohol-related blood poisoning. It did not make any sense at first, but it became clearer when they took me to a ward for observation for a day or so and offered me some food. I had been comatose for a considerable length of time, and they explained all about how I was looked after. They were so happy that I was not brain damaged. I was relieved, but saddened about causing unnecessary concern. It was no longer Christmas. They called Magda to tell her the good news. But when she came with one of the witness brothers, she told me how worried she was in case they had transfused me with blood. She and that brother advised me that this is what happens when one shares a pagan practice with the worldly and godless people. She had apparently visited me during my hospitalization twice before, and was praying to Jehovah day and night. It became crystal clear that I was no longer in a dream state. However, I can never forget my unique experience, and the most interesting issue here was that I was under no influence of stories which some might consider me having. This storyline, or other people's experiences, has never interested me before. Albert Camus, 1913 to 1960, says, "The absurd is born of the confrontation between human need and the unreasonable silence of the world."